In my previous series, I often emphasized that public procurements should be used as a tools for achieving not only economic but also other so-called secondary goals, including societal, environmental, or pro-innovative policy goals. It is especially important nowadays when we must deal with economic and societal consequences of the COVID pandemic. Among them, it is really important to support small and medium-sized enterprises, or SMEs, through the public procurement system. Unfortunately, it is not only necessary, but also complicated. Let me explain from the Polish perspective, of course. Public procurement has enormous potential in supporting SMEs. Consequently, this may be used as a tool for stimulating expected economic outcomes, which is of great significance in the post-COVID economic recovery period. Many countries are declaring now their public procurement systems will be used to support domestic entrepreneurs. It is possible to achieve such goals, but the process of achieving them has to remain in accordance with basic rules of EU public procurement law, particularly fair competition and equal treatment of economic operators. It must be stressed that the award of public contracts by or on behalf of EU member state authorities has to comply with the principles of the treaties, and in particular the free movement of goods, freedom of establishment and freedom to provide services, as well as the principles deriving therefrom, such as equal treatment, non-discrimination, mutual recognition, proportionality and transparency. These rules obviously limit contracting authorities in making purchases and, as a result, to some extent, limit their possibilities of achieving strategic goals, including supporting specific entrepreneurs, branches or sectors of the economy. In that context, one can ask, is it worth protecting common market and complying with rules of fair competition? Maybe it would be better to throw off the shackles of such limits on contractual freedom. Maybe these limits are too strict and decrease the effectiveness of purchasing processes. I discussed that very question with Professor Piotr Bogdanowicz, who is an assistant professor at Warsaw University and, as a practitioner, counsel at Clifford Chance. He claimed that public procurement law, of course, establishes some limits, but it is not true that procurement procedures would be much more effective without these limits. Professor Bogdanowicz pointed out that when we compare public procurement procedures to open contract award procedures organized in the private sector, differences between them are insignificant. When it comes to principles, they are really similar. It is worth adding that during COVID times, paradoxically, avoiding the use of public procurement law, for example, procuring medical equipment, does not guarantee effectiveness, rather the reverse. In fact, it was recently noted and described in European legal literature. Even though it may be uncomfortable or even frustrating for all parties involved, for example because of the level of formality, experience teaches us that complying with the rules of fair competition increases the effectiveness of the purchasing process. But within this framework, public procurement may and should be used as a tool for achieving strategic goals, as a tool for stimulating expected economic outcomes. It is really important not only because of COVID pandemic consequences. Such approach is of great significance for countries so-called emerging or just emerged markets, for example, for my country, Poland. So, in the international discourse on the role of public procurement law in contemporary economy, we should take into account such perspective, including postulates of supporting domestic SMEs or strengthening local content through public procurement system. But at the same time, we should remember that the rule of fair competition is not the enemy of these postulates. It was perfectly concluded by Piotr Bogdanowicz in my previous masterclass video. Fair competition is not a goal, it is a tool for ensuring the effectiveness of purchasing processes. I hope you agree, and I encourage you to discuss in commentary section. For now, thanks for watching and see you soon.